Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. It is the off week between Silverstone and Hungary. We have an amazing episode with a very special guest coming up shortly. Rob, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. We got to start off with an apology. We kind of made it sound like maybe this week we'd do a Vale's Tales on Sir Jackie Stewart, as suggested by Lee on the Discord, and that was our intention as we started the week. And then midweek we got a response from a very special guest. She's currently the US editor of Planet F1. She goes by the name of Elizabeth Blackstock, and you will hear in our interview with her that she has done a gazillion things and still doing a gazillion different things across the sport. And it was an amazing chat. It was absolutely brilliant.
The best.
You know, when you have one of those, when all of a sudden you look down at the clock and you're like, oh crumbs, we haven't even kind of moved into talking about feelings about this season yet, and we've already burnt through 35 minutes. It was just one of those just brilliant chats. She was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we've had a couple in a row. I mean, Mark was amazing too. Like, we've been really fortunate with the guests. So,
Yeah,
amazing
yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
Amazing conversation. But as always, and I'll do this instead of Rob, we'll do news and social. We'll do the video vault. We'll hear from Elizabeth. We missed the recap of Fantasy from Silverstone, so we'll do that and then preview Hungary. Right, Rob? Did I get it right?
You did. Look at you nailing it.
I
That's
know. Look at me,
see a little bit of a rest
multi-talented.
for you. You've been away for a few weeks and you've recharged the old hosting
Yeah, but you
batteries.
kick some
Yeah.
COVID and a little vacation. You put it all together, and I can do your job. Just kidding.
So I need to go and catch COVID to really up my game in introducing the episode format.
I feel
Okay.
like this is the second time I've had it since we started the pod because it was a couple years ago that I had it last. Anyway,
I don't
back
think I
to you
ever
for
had
the
it,
news.
so I'm really, really kind of jealous. But anyway, yeah, news and socials. So, um, I kind of took this headline from maybe F1 Coffee Corner, not sure, somebody on Instagram that we follow, and I took this. It said, according to several prominent F1 publications, so not kind of the rags that report any old rumor, Toyota could be eyeing a way back into Formula One with a partnership through Haas. Now, it's being played down a lot at the moment. It's really, I think, is the use of their wind tunnels. So McLaren had been using it, but have built their own facility. And it looks like Toyota's state-of-the-art wind tunnel in Cologne could be used by us. But then it's kind of being suggested that they might work together in 25 ahead of the reg changes, and maybe Toyota might come in and sponsor Haas, kind of similar to how Alfa Romeo sponsored
So
Sauber. So
just
not
a name to
really,
start with and
yeah, just a
money.
name to start with. It feels. Is it just me, or is it like you've seen The Matrix, right?
Many
Where
times.
every time the machines destroy Zion, they then start all over again and the simulation resets and we go again until Neo arrives and it all goes round and does full circle over and over and over again. Isn't that Toyota in F1? The Toyota come in, they play in Toyota in F1 for a while, then they go, screw this, we're out, we're never coming back, we're off, we've had enough of F1, off we go. And then like a few years will go by and like Toyota will come knocking on the door again and go, any chance we could come play in F1 again? It just feels like it. It feels like Toyota have been in and out forever. Maybe they haven't, but
It does,
that's what it
actually. I
kind of.
agree with you. And it does, I mean, it feels like there's a lot of manufacturers who kind of have that itch every now and then to get their name on a car. And the last one I remember, besides the Alfa Romeo, that really sticks out as someone who you thought might make a car was obviously Nissan, but they just put the Infinity name on a bunch of stuff. So, like, I am kind of curious to see what Toyota will or won't do. There have been a lot of other rumors. So you mentioned it with Haas potentially, but a lot of conversation about what the manufacturer of the engine will be for Renault, Alpine going forward, whether they'll continue
Oh
to make
yeah.
their works engine or not. And so, I've seen 8 different versions of this, and so I don't even know where I would put any credit or credence behind it. But you never know. I guess we got to stay tuned to find out.
And then again, looking forward to next year, they've already announced the sprint races, which if you're a fan of sprints, you're going, yay, the sprint schedule's out. If you're not a fan of sprints, you're like, oh, great, these are where we've got to put with sprints for. But
The good
anyway,
news
the
is there's
list is
still
out.
only 6. I thought that
Yes,
we'd see 10 or some kind of growth in the sprint numbers. And I'll be honest, I have been negative on the sprints for a while. They're growing on me. They're growing on me because it is better than watching Friday practice.
well, that says the man that went to Friday practice. Yeah, I'm with you as long as they. I'd love to see them cycle around the tracks for a bit and then work out if they say 6 is the magic number. What are the 6 tracks that really lend themselves to the sprint format? Because some just don't. And there's one
Right.
on this list now, which I think it's a new one to the sprint, unless I've completely had brain freeze. But Spa, Spa is going to be a sprint next year.
So
Has it
it's
been a
not
sprint
this year.
before?
Wasn't it last year?
Was it? I'm
I
not
think it
sure.
was. Didn't Oscar
It
do well at the Spa sprint last year?
maybe. Maybe. It sort of stuck out. I saw. So you got Chinese. We'll have Chinese, Miami, Belgium, Kota, Sao Paulo, and Qatar will all be
So
sprints
can we
next
agree
year.
Interlagos, who's they've locked us in for many years with the sprint there, it's really worked.
That works there.
Yes,
Sprint really
works.
works in
Kota
Brazil.
is okay. I could see Kota. I'm okay with. I don't know about Spa. I'm with you. Miami.
I'm not sure about that either. I
Yeah,
don't know. I can't even
I'm
tell
just
you
warming
why.
up to Miami as a track itself. Why we got to throw a sprint up in there?
I don't even know what it is. Is it? I guess it needs to be a track where I don't even know. I'm trying to come up with what makes a good sprint, and I can't even define it. Yet I do know somewhere in my own brain that some tracks seem to work with sprints and some
Right.
tracks don't. But I don't really know why. So if anybody out there can understand and break that down for us and wants to get in touch
What?
on Twitter, please explain it.
Agreed. I think also it needs to be one where there's an opportunity for overtakes and maybe a little variability in weather. And so this is just me thinking off the cuff, because if they had one in Monaco, it would be terrible because it would just
Yes.
be a procession. And we're about to talk about Monaco without walls, Hungary, later today.
Yes.
So I'm happy I don't see the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Hungaroring on here. But yeah, you're right. There's some kind of X factor. And for some reason, Brazil has it. Interlagos has it in just a plethora of the X factor. And I can't wait.
Absolutely. And then somebody, I don't know if you did bump into him at Silverstone.
Clarkson? Yeah, we were hanging out for a while, actually.
I thought you were hanging out for a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were there when he got interviewed about.
As he
this,
walked
right?
by, I yelled,
So-
"Power!" And he looked at me and goes, "You must be a fan."
Okay, so during the British Grand Prix, while he was hanging out with Sat, Clarkson hinted that Nui might not be going to Ferrari because apparently he's not house hunting in Maranello. He said, "Do you want an exclusive? I know that Adrian Nui is house hunting in Oxfordshire, not Maranello." Now, that can either be Clarkson trolling and just being Clarkson. That could be the fact that these people are so rich that would it really matter if he needs to get on a plane every now and again and go over to the Ferrari factory? I mean, I'm not sure he has to live in Maranello to work for Ferrari. Or it could actually be a real thing that he's house hunting to try and be near the future team, which is going to whittle it down to any of those US-based ones. I mean,
US, UK based.
UK based. You've got
He
a
ain't
few of
working
them
for
all around
Haas.
there, so yeah, he's not going to Haas. That'd be cool. So who knows where he's going to end up?
I do say, can we connect one other Nui story? We saw the RB17, the Nui hypercar was unveiled at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I think it was at Goodwood. Timing would make sense.
Mine's on order. It turns up soon, yeah.
Is it now? Yeah, so is mine. Mine's the Matchbox version. It looks amazing. It reminds me of all of the hypercars they make now. So, like, if you look at the Aston Martin and if you take the Mercedes Project 1, or I guess 1, because it's not a project anymore, and you go beyond that for all of the other people who have cranked out these types of cars, they all kind of start looking the same to me.
Yeah, is it going to have a variety of it that's going to compete in sort of the hypercar events, or is it just a show pony that they're
I
just
think
gonna
it's
try
just a
and sell
car
to
for the
people?
rich.
Okay.
But what do I know?
Okay, then this one just caught my eye. Decided to take this one here. It's a pointless stat, but you know, a lot of stats are pointless.
Hey,
of the
stats are very
88
important, just for the record.
Yours are. This is more a fun
They're
fact
my
rather than a
friends.
stat, I guess. But
Yeah.
of the 88 drivers that have participated in Formula One since 2007, Nick De Vries is the only full-time driver who hasn't been on the grid during a Lewis Hamilton win.
So was Nick Lewis's kryptonite? Is that the problem?
Is it that he turns up and Lewis lost all of his
This
powers
young
and
Dutch
then-
driver rocks up, and Lewis is like, "I can't win a race."
Maybe that was
De
Max's-
Vries.
Maybe that was Max's master plan all along. He's like, he was created in a Dutch lab, and arise, Hamilton Kryptonite, Hamtonite. No, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work at all. So one thing we've talked a little bit about is the fact that Checo has really struggled, right? We talked about it last week. We don't have to get into it too much more, but we have talked about qualifying. We've kind of looked at the idea that says, all right, we've seen Logan out-qualify Checo 6 or 7 times in the 12 races so far, which is obviously bad. But since Spain, and we saw one of these, but since Spain, Nico Hulkenberg has 16 points. Checo has 11. And we knew that leaving the British Grand Prix. We were talking about it was all over the internet. However, there's a second part to this statistic that I hadn't seen. and it makes me want to cry a little bit more. So in addition to Nico having 16 points since Spain, and Checo has 11, you know who else has less than Nico? None other than
Charles Chuck Leclerc
with 12. Charles Chuck Leclerc has 12 points since Spain. 12. Haas, Nico, 16.
Yep.
Rob, any comments?
No, it's just...
Makes you want to cry like me?
It does, because I'm going to say this out loud now, but I'm really, really starting to worry that Charles is following Checo's career path.
Oh, God, no, don't do this. What are you doing? What is happening?
Look,
if I don't think I have a boo sound effect. If I did, I'd play it right now.
I didn't say it's going to happen. I just said I'm worried. Something in my gut is worried that Checo came in and got access to one of the world's best cars and won some races to start with and looked good. And last year was second in the constructors, even though he was a million miles behind Max. He was still maximizing what he had and beating the rest of the field. And then it's all kind of fallen off a cliff. And where's the Checo driver gone? Charles in 22 was maybe a contender, but through strategy circus show that was Ferrari, always seemed to go against him and he couldn't carry the fight, but he was looking good in that car. And then it's all just fallen. Since Ferrari almost sorted out the strategy, it's now maybe shining a spotlight more on one chat when Charles actually is inconsistent. That's my worry, is that he was getting away with it for a while with being hiding behind the clown show of race strategy from Ferrari. And now it's all on, I don't know, just a little bit down at the moment on Charles and thinking, I'm not sure he's going to come back from this.
Let me be the voice of reason for you and anyone else feeling that way.
Help me.
The car, they have brought downgrades like Aston. And yes, he hasn't been performing his best. He's clearly distracted with this puppy. And so now he's got the puppy to think about. He's doing his outlaps, wondering if the puppy peed in his RV or not. And I really believe once the car comes back, and we're going to see it'll be good, bad. They've been taking stuff off. They're figuring out what's wrong. Carlos has been talking about it too. I think we'll see Charles back. I think maybe not before the break, but I'm willing to bet he will be one of the best drivers in the second half. And I have confidence that his talent will be there. He just needs a little break. He put it all into Monaco. He's spent. He just needs to refocus, take the summer break. We have 2 races left. Don't expect a ton out of him. But when we come back at the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, I think you're going to see the Charles Leclerc we know and love. And I have a question. Does that work for you? No, it didn't work. It wasn't convincing. I got nothing else. So
no, I mean, I hope so. But if you just look at where we're about to move on to next, the next little graphic you've got of the 23 versus 24 driving standings after 12 races or whatever it is, or Charles is 4 points ahead of Sainz and 150 against 146. And if you look at their performance over the last few races, there is definitely a trajectory going in a particular direction. And Charles is going to go past him soon. Carlos is going to go past him soon. I don't know. Charles got a lot of those points at the beginning of the season, hasn't done a lot since, and he's in the same machinery. So we can talk about Ferrari bringing downgrades, but Sainz didn't do too bad in Silverstone. That's what's worrying me. It's not me beating up on Charles. I'm a Ferrari fan, and I want these 2 drivers to be brilliant, and I want them to be back up on the podium. And I really believe I want to believe Charles is a fantastic driver, but it's just starting to ebb away as I'm watching people like Lando and Oscar kind of claim their stake, and Carlos seems to be doing better, and Lewis and George are going to start to be doing better, and Carlos is trying to take the fight to those other guys while they're coming up around, and Charles doesn't seem to have the fight. He just seems to be dropping to the back and pootling around.
But again, he's at the same place as Carlos. Let him get to the summer break. I feel good. I did want to highlight the driver standings, right? So we have Max clearly in the lead at 255. We've got Lando at 171, not super far behind. Max isn't as far ahead as he was last year, and the delta isn't as large. And then we see the Ferrari drivers, 150, 146, close pair. We see Oscar nearly 50 points beyond Lando, which was shocking to me to see because I've always felt like Oscar's been pretty close. But we have also seen him have some bad luck, finish 6th with some poor strategy and some situations with the car. So I'm not as worried. I think Oscar and Lando are a great pairing.
Yep.
But then we have Checo at 118. And we won't do this again. We did it last week. The delta in stats and positions and numbers of championship points and places. It's not good, man. Not good, man. But then we have George and Lewis at 110 and 111. And then we have the two Aston guys at 45 and 23. So they kind of go in pairs, right? Which makes sense from a team perspective, with the exception of Checo. They got to do something about it, because in the constructor, and this is where it matters, and beyond their own control, Red Bull are getting reeled in by both Ferrari and McLaren. And I think they have to notice that. 373 points so far for the season for Red Bull. Ferrari's at 302, and McLaren's at a 295 on the charge. I mean, they are, at this pace, if Checo keeps performing like this, McLaren will catch Red Bull by the end of the year for the constructors. There's no if, and, or but about it, because Max can't do it all by himself for the constructor too. He did last year. The RB19 allowed that. The RB20 doesn't. And so I am very curious. Mercedes is catching up, 221. They're on the upswing. And then at the bottom, well, I hate to do it, but I mean, if you look where Valtteri and Joe are.
This is Valtteri Bottas, and you're listening to the dirty side of the track.
They got no points. None. Zero. Bupkis. 0. And then Williams has 4. Thank you, Alex. Alpine at 9. Haas at 27. Haas is bringing it to RB, who RB has looked great at times and terrible at times. I don't understand what they're doing with their car. I don't think they do either. The two of them are battling for 6th. And then you got Aston kind of alone in 5th. They're like, hey, is anyone around us? Nope. Okay, we'll just keep stinking.
Aston as a constructors are in witness protection.
They are.
As you look at this, right? Because you've got Ferrari and McLaren can take the charge to Red Bull. Mercedes
on the way up,
too
but
far
not quite
back,
there yet.
But
yeah.
Carry on doing this, they could be going after McLaren. There's 4 teams definitely out and away at the top. And then, like you say, you've got Alpine, Williams, and Sauber all fighting over the wooden spoon, which Sauber have got 2 hands firmly on at the moment, and don't look like they want to give that wooden spoon up at all. And Haas trying to chase down Toro Rosso. So there we go. Battles everywhere. Aston Martin are unlikely to get caught by Haas or Toro Rosso, and they're definitely not catching Mercedes ahead of them. So they just got 5th. They could just sort of give up now, finish the season.
Well, they should start developing. In all seriousness, could they start developing more time for next year's car if they haven't already? I mean, I'm willing to put money on it. 12 races into a 24-race season, we haven't hit the summer break. I'm going to predict Aston Martin 5th right now. And I'd be willing to put money on it. Like, I'd be willing to put $20 American dollars, which in Switzerland will get you a tissue. I'd be willing to put...
You could double that bet up and make it a parlay and say it's Aston Martin 5th and Sauber last.
No, they're going to turn it around. Valtteri's done a great job. Yeah, they will. Come on, let's be positive. Charles. All right. Here we go. Video vault time, Rob?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Do you realize if I flipped the close and the open, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference? But okay, we're opening the video vault. I did my work. I'm back, baby. I saw some videos. I got some good ones here. I have one excellent one that I'll get to. So we'll start off with a new one that came out yesterday. 20 times pit stops went wrong on the Formula One channel, 12 minutes. It's basically 14 videos of refueling fires and then 6 bad double stacks, effectively. Okay. The one that sticks out is Valtteri's right front machined wheel nut in Monaco from a couple years ago. And Valtteri was in one of the bad double stacks in Bahrain, if you remember that, with George when he deputized for Lewis when Lewis had COVID. So basically it's Valtteri getting hosed and a bunch of gas fires. And then some random ones, Eddie Irvine had a couple in there through the years. But if you're one of the people like me who thinks maybe we should bring back refueling, they made this video to tell you you're wrong. There's no other point to this video. It's just fire in the pit lane for 12 minutes. You don't have to watch it. I don't want to break the trust we have. The box of bluffs on the Formula One channel this week's was Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly. It was fun. It was 4 minutes. I like these. Like, I've been watching these. They've been interesting, non-teammates doing this. So it was fun to watch these guys chat, and again, 4 minutes, if you got the time, definitely worth checking it out. I watched a bunch of Kim Illman videos. I don't have one for the links. We won't put one in because I watched all of them. The reason I've been watching all of them is he was in the paddock right next to us, and I keep waiting for a picture of me or my wife or my kids in the background. Hasn't happened yet, but there was somebody, and I don't know who it was, walking next to us, and he was getting 100 photos, and my wife was right next to this person. And so I said, I think you're going to be in one of the photos. Now, I haven't gone and found wherever he stores his photos. I don't know. But he's in my photo of Jackie Stewart. If you go back and look at Sir Jackie and myself shaking hands, just over my right shoulder in a pair of rolled up jorts is Kim Illman. And so I will let you guys check that out. The Lollipop Man video. Rob, you love Lollipop Man. Did you see the British Grand Prix one?
Haven't watched this one yet. No, I got to watch this. I haven't seen it yet.
You have to go. So like he captures, or she, lollipop person, captures the Lando radio message perfectly. I'm not gonna say more than that. Watch it just for that.
I will do.
I'll save the best for last year. The C-Squared Challenge, quick fire games with Charles and Carlos, round 2. Thank you, Ferrari, for finally giving us more than a 2-minute version of the C-Squared Challenge. 5 minutes. They play a bunch of different games. It was fun. Like, this is what I'm looking for. If you want to actually make it interesting to watch, give us more than 2.5 minutes of them, hitting each other with wooden spoons. This was fun. Check it out. It's worth it. But the coup de grace, the one you must watch, Alex Albon on Silverstone, group chats, and F1 memes, Cosmopolitan UK. I found this. Yes, don't make a face. I search everywhere. Cosmopolitan UK. It's 14 minutes long. It is 100% worth it. Must watch. Like, he even talks about Max and Lando leaving Austria and were they booked on the same flight or not. And he's like, they weren't. But if they had been, would they have taken it together? He goes, I'm not sure. And so, like, he talks about the group chat and all these other things. It's really worth it. I promise everybody, if you got 14 minutes, find it this week. Alex Albon on the Cosmopolitan UK channel.
Oh, now you just need to either play the same sound effect again to open it or close whichever one. There we go. That was definitely closing.
Done.
You get the little lock. You get the little lock at the end.
You do.
I'm glad you're back because that was painful trying to find those things. I don't know how you go about it because what I did was I found a couple of videos that you'd watched before and then tried to see on YouTube and then see what things it might want to suggest to me on the right-hand side. And they were just all awful. They're just all this clickbait crap of, you'll never believe what happened next. And like you look at it and you go, yeah, I would totally guess what happened next. What's the point of this one? I didn't find any of this stuff. And maybe you've just got more patience than me because I watched about like 4 of them. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. This is it.
Or long before we started this podcast, my YouTube algorithm had been put into shape for Formula One current driver content. So it's got to be within the last week. And then just serve it to me. And I'm sitting there with a bib around my neck and I'm just slurping it up, baby.
Oh, my gosh. I'm desperately trying to segue to introducing Elizabeth, but I don't want to go off the back of a bib and slurping things up into going into introducing our guests.
But speaking of people who are more professional than us.
Oh, nice one. Well saved, sir. So we sat down. Actually, I didn't. I have a standing desk, so I've completely ruined the intro.
All right, then.
We spoke to Elizabeth this week, and she was absolutely brilliant. And we do all the intros and cover it as part of the chat. So, without any further ado, here is Elizabeth.
Box.
Okay, I've been up to my old tricks again of stalking people on social media until they bend and actually come onto the show here. And this week, I have great pleasure of introducing a lady of many talents. I have to introduce her as a journalist, author, podcaster, and chef, I think. Welcome to the dirty side of the track, Elizabeth Blackstock.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
So
now, am I overselling the chef thing a little bit? So just to kind of pick up for people that don't know, you kind of do here on the dirty side, we did a thing very lowbrow where we tried to drink a beer of the country of an F1 race each week. But you've got this Grand Prix gastronomy where you cook something from each country. So are we looking at Michelin stars here or what?
I think Michelin star is a little generous. I am certifiably a decent home cook. I just like experimenting with food. And so I was like, why not? I've never cooked anything from Bahrain before. Let's see what they've got out there.
That's so cool. And as we will get into all of this in a second, but as we were saying before when we came on, I've been reading you on Jalopnik for a while now, and I absolutely love your articles. I have to ask, I cannot let this go. You just reviewed, first of all, we follow you on Twitter. You were at Le Mans. We'll get into that, I promise. But then around the same time, the McLaren Artura Spider you did a review of. And the pictures were fantastic, by the way. I just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Was that the craziest experience in your life, or was that just like a day for Elizabeth?
So I've never driven a supercar before. I am blessed in so many aspects of my job, but usually I'm like the truck guy. So I'm like, you got a Silverado that needs reviewing, you send me on that one. And they were like, hey, we've got this McLaren Artura Spider. Do you want to go review that? And I was like, sure, where is it? Thinking it's like, I don't know, Napa or like somewhere nice in the States. And they were like, oh no, it's in Monaco. You're going to go to Monaco. And I was like, you fucking serious? Yeah, I want to go. It was absolute insanity. Never driven a supercar before. Like the closest thing I've driven is the Corvette, like the most recent one. Not at all similar. It was so cool. Like it was just mind-boggling to like hit the gas pedal and just go like down these cool French mountain roads. Oh my God. I'm still thinking about it. And it happened that it was just like the weekend before Le Mans. So I was able to extend my stay. Had a couple days in the south of France, like just for me. And then I was like, I'm gonna go full race car and do the whole thing. So it was great. It was so cool.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I just, we got to do the 100 seconds here, Rob. So get your timer ready. But before we do, can I just say, reading that and all of your articles, one of the things we try to do here on this pod is it's like by fans for fans, right? And what you do as a journalist is you really translate it well to the reader as like, you're interested in cars, so am I. You have that passion that comes through. So I wanted to say thanks because I've always enjoyed reading your articles. It feels like I'm experiencing what you're writing about. So
that means a lot. That's what I try to do. So I am glad it is translating. I'm glad I am not mistaken in what I think I'm doing.
No, you nail it. You nail it. But now, can you nail the 100? Oh, that was a good segue you ruined.
I know we're supposed to do the 100 seconds as DRS, but I can't let this go because. So you won't know, Elizabeth, but Brian, when he was on a European vacation, he went to Monaco and he took his rental car Skoda and did a lap of Monaco.
I did
so
just a
week
ago.
Were you inspired by Elizabeth's word, and that's why you drove so slowly around the lap of Monaco?
If I'm being honest, I'd been driving all over Europe, and I had not understood a single street sign for about 8 days. They were all in German, Italian, and French. And by the time I got to Monaco in my Skoda, I decided I wasn't going to get in any accidents. And I didn't know where I was going. And it was like, so I was slow. What can I say? But Team Skoda has called me up. They're going to enter F1, and they want me to be their driver. So
congratulations.
Let's go on with the 100 seconds of DRS, I think.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Elizabeth, are you ready for the 100 seconds of DRS?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Rob, you ready to time? You've screwed it up a lot, but not recently.
I do screw it up a lot, but I've kind of worked out how to do it now. So I'm going to count you in, and then away we'll go. So 100 seconds of DRS in 3, 2, 1, begin.
Elizabeth, what's your favorite F1 track?
Coda.
What's your favorite cheese?
Manchego.
Okay, this is an important one. Is it pronounced GIF or GIF?
It's GIF.
Yes. Ford or Ferrari?
Ford.
I think I know the answer is based on Twitter. Cats or dogs?
Oh, cats.
Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Sleep in or up early?
Up early.
Okay, fill in the blank. F1 in America is?
Growing.
If you could add a venue to F1, where would it be?
The Nürburgring. We gotta go back.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Read.
What's your favorite non-F1 sport?
IndyCar.
All right. Tires, interesting or not?
Interesting.
I agree. DRS, good or bad?
Good enough.
I think we also agree on that one. Wet or dry race?
Wet race.
What is your favorite food?
Mac and cheese.
Oh, that's a great one. Do you know what the Sky red button does on Sky Sports?
No, but it turns my TV off.
What's your favorite TV show?
True Detective.
Excellent. And mustache or mullet?
Mustache.
That's a good one. We'll let Valtteri know. And if you could add a James Bond type gadget to an F1 car, what would it be?
A gun to shoot other people's tires. Only for that.
And on that bombshell, that's the end of the 100 seconds. So there we are.
I love
Excellent.
it. Shredding tires and doing your thing. So Coda, you said, is your favorite track.
Yeah, it's got a special place in my heart. Like, I'm in Texas. I've got my Everything is Faster in Texas t-shirt on at the moment that I bought at Coda. It's my place to be.
How often do you get to see a race there?
I go to the F1 race every year and have been since 2014-ish. That was my first race ever, was the U.S. Grand Prix.
Wow.
I used to live in Austin and went to college there, so I buy season passes and go to everything that they had there, including like SVRA weekends just for funsies. Now I try to go out for NASCAR, F1. I'm going to go to WEC this year, which will be fun. I'm so glad that endurance racing is coming back.
That's awesome. And you're like an endurance expert at this point, right after Le Mans?
Oh, I know. I'm learning. I'm getting all up to speed on it. I'm an expert.
Can you help convert Rob? Like, I enjoy watching endurance here and there, and Rob's take is like, well, I'll watch the first minute and the last minute and call it a day.
Guilty.
Honestly, I think if you start to get into it, the best thing is like I wasn't a fan of it for a while. I just put the whole race on and then I do other stuff. So I'd like clean, cook, whatever, come tune back in, see what's going on. And then I started going to these endurance races and I was like, oh, this is crazy. Because when you go, you can like get into the pits, you can see what's going on, you can talk to the fans who have been drinking since 3 days ago and are having an absolute blast. And you can do that for 24 hours. Like, that's just insane. So I think like going in person really converted me. I was doing the 6 hours at Watkins Glen, IMSA, for a while. So I met my husband. And so it was like, yeah, I should probably pay attention to the thing that brought me to my man's. Since then I've been into it.
How did you, like, I'm kind of curious, how did you get started with motorsport? You mentioned your first U.S. Grand Prix in 2014 at COTA. Is it always something you've enjoyed? Is it like, how did you kind of get into motorsport? And then in particular after that, I'm curious where F1 came along and obviously your book. We can get into that after that.
So I grew up in Michigan with a big automotive family. Everyone was in the industry. And so we always had NASCAR on when I was young. Like I had the full Mark Martin get up, helmet, fire suit, like head to toe, would ride my little electric Jeep around, pretend I was a race car driver. But like as I got older, I got out of it. I was like, oh, it's the thing my dad likes. It's not cool to like what your parents like. I'm gonna find my own path, do my own thing, pretend that I'm goth for a little while. Like we'll see what's up. And then I was like getting into like the 70s music scene and like old muscle cars for a while. I was in high school. 2013, the movie Rush comes out. I was a big Chris Hemsworth fan on top of also loving motorsport or like the 1970s car scene. So I was like, oh, perfect. Match me in heaven. Day one, we saw it opening day. And I was in the car on the way home and I distinctly remember being like, no way that was a real story. They must have made up that whole thing. They must have Hollywoodified it. It can't be as good as what they're saying. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to prove to myself that it's bad. And I went home and I started digging into the 76 season and I was like, oh my God, they didn't even touch on half of the crazy stuff that happened. The real thing's wilder. Since then, it's been like full force, full go. I think I was a junior in high school when the movie came out. Been over 10 years since then, so I'm still going strong, digging into race car history. So F1 was like the first one that really got me in. I was like, well, I guess this thing that's still happening, I could watch it. So Korea, maybe I think 2013 was the first race I watched live. And I was like, I'll go to the 2014 US Grand Prix and get it out of my system. Like I'm going to college at UT. I'll be fine. Like, you know what I mean? Went with a friend. We got to the end of the weekend and we were like, so we're going to Europe next year, right? And we did.
Brilliant. Where did you go?
We went to Austria. We wanted to go to the Nürburgring, but that was right when they had taken it off the calendar. So we went to Austria. We went up to England, did the Formula E season finale for its first season in London, and then went to Silverstone. So it was a really it was a blast. It was so much fun. We road tripped from Munich down to Spielberg, Austria. Just so gorgeous. I went with three other girls. I had not met them prior to showing up. We like all camped in the same tent. Oh, it was so much fun. We've been best friends ever since.
Now that sounds like
That's
an
amazing.
adventure.
Oh, it was so cool. Didn't speak a lick of German and just like had a blast with all of the dudes out there who also did speak English.
Just before we kind of dig into kind of maybe the origins of where the book came from, because that was, I mean, same way of this can't be real. When I first heard it, I was like, no, this can't be real. This that can't be that somebody did this to the F1 circus. I just kind of want to mention your kind of love for that history of digging into the past of F1. We kind of inspired we have a little feature that we call Bale's Tales, where we kind of take like a driver that probably no one's ever not heard of, but we know there's a lot of new eyeballs and people getting into F1, especially in the US at the moment. So we kind of like pick a driver every now and again. And when did we do Fangio, Brian? We did Fangio a long time, like
We did.
a couple
It was
of
a
years
while
ago.
ago.
But it was one of the first ones we picked because we wanted to kind of dig into the legend of Fangio. And I noticed you did that on your Deadly Passions. You did the whole kidnapping aspect. And man, another story. You're like, can't
What do
be
you
real.
mean
How
that's a
can this
thing
sa-
that happened? What do you
Yeah,
mean he was
exactly.
held at gunpoint? What?
By the same groups who ended up putting Castro in power. I'm like, what are the odds?
How is this a thing that happens? Like, what the hell?
So to keep that theme going, for people that are not aware, you did with Alanis King, you did the book Racing with Rich Energy. And for people that are not aware, essentially, William Storey, the CEO of Rich Energy, rocked up with about £2.50 in his bank account. Sorry, 581, and claimed to have inventory of all this energy drink that was going to be better than Red Bull. And managed to somehow hoodwink Haas into believing that he had all of this finance and actually sponsoring the team and getting his logo on there and everything. It's one of the first, I don't know if it's the first chapter or second chapter, where you say that about like Gunther saying that, Haas did all the legal checks to make sure this
They
guy
did their
was
due
legit.
diligence. They got that phrase so many times writing that book. We did our due diligence. Did you? What?
So
no one wanted to tell us what that meant, though. No one. We were like, "What? What do you mean due diligence?" No one. Nothing.
So it started off as you writing a story, right? And then it
Yes.
snowballed into becoming a book.
So the thing that happened, I was at Jalopnik at the time, and my coworker Alanis King and I both were like similar age, both went to the University of Texas, both like Texas gals, both like race car. And we were noticing on motorsport.com and Autosport that this sponsor was being hyped up well before the season had started, like with the car launch. And I was like, that's really weird. We don't really ever see any big sponsors. Like, no one's doing that for Mercedes sponsors. No one's doing that for anything else. What is this energy drink company doing? So we started to look into it. And then we were like, there's not anything here. Like, there's nothing that would suggest that this is a legitimate, real company with a lot of money, at least to the extent that it can support a Formula One team as the title sponsor. So we dug into it, got a story written. Alanis interviewed William Storey for that initial piece, and he was very like persuasive and totally like misdirecting everything she asked to be like, no, yeah, I know you want specifics, but also we're a very good legitimate company, so don't worry about it. We don't have to give it to you. So we post a story. It goes crazy. Everything we posted in April of 2019. The team falls apart throughout that season. It gets crazier where, William Storey and the Rich Energy account is tweeting #better than Red Bull. They're getting these lawsuits because you can't say that. That can't be your tagline. The team and them split. Everything quiets down. It's fine. 2020 comes and this agent reaches out and was like, hey, I just got into, like, I'm just watching Drive to Survive. I'm just watching Motorsport. And I learned about this company and saw your article. Do you guys want to write a book about it? And I was like, you know what? There's actually enough here that we could write a book about it. There was so much that we couldn't touch on in like a short form story, even though it is a deep investigation. I was like, we could talk to the former athletes he sponsored and all of the other, where did this company come from? We could go to its its origin story and figure that out. So we got working on it. The agent ghosted us for a very long time and then came back after we had signed our contract to be like, I actually don't think I can market this story for you. So
What?
we had all of the book written aside from the interviews. So all of just kind of the base research, base facts. We had done our work and we were like, what do you mean you don't think you can market it? It turns out that he had told his boss that it was like incomprehensible. We had turned in a proposal and he couldn't read it. He couldn't understand it. Well, his boss read it and his boss was like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, at that point, Alanis was an editor at Business Insider. I was an editor at Jalopnik. Like, we no words. And no one would have put us in those roles. We would have been bad at that. So thankfully we found McFarland and sent them the proposal. And we're like, can you please, for the love of God, do something with this book that we poured our heart and soul into? And they were like, yes, absolutely. Let's get this in the works. And so they were really great through the whole process. Picked us up, saved us from just, oh my God, I can still remember getting the email, opening it up and being like, I just don't have time to deal with this today. And Alanis, bless her heart, went full, let me speak to your manager about it, because I had to go deliver a car somewhere that day. So I couldn't even be on my phone. And she got it taken care of. I am so grateful she took that out, because I was not, I couldn't do that.
On your shrine to Rich Energy there, you've actually got a can of the drink, have you?
I do have a can of Rich Energy. They actually sold it wholesale at Walmart for a while, so you
Really?
can order it on Walmart's website in the United States. So I ordered a whole case. My mom ordered some because my mom was so stoked. She was like, "You're writing this thing about this energy drink. Like, I want to try it." So she's got cans. We brought them out to Watkins Glen and used them as mixers during the 6 hour. It's
Nice.
fine.
I was gonna ask, how is it? It's fine.
It tastes like Red Bull. Like, it's energy drink. It's just generic juice that makes you hyper. Like, it wasn't anything special. But it wasn't anything awful either. Like, it was good.
And that's the thing that set the scene for me. Like, you can accuse me of being a snap judge of character here, but when you're introducing his reaction to, I think it's when they do the logo for the thing and they take the antlers from, is it White Bikes, something like that?
Yeah, White Bikes.
And it's blatantly a copy and paste, and they've
I
done that
know.
tiny little thing where they've added their own piece on to turn in their own homework so that teacher doesn't notice. And
Yeah.
anybody with eyes can see that this is an exact carbon copy of someone else's logo. Yet they try to defend it in court. They come up with all these reasons why it's not a copy. I'm like,
I know.
everybody has eyes. This
It's
is
so funny. They had the same logo with one little niblet added to the horns. That was it. And then they tried to turn in their evidence of, we just looked at a lot of logos of deer as research. So of course, like, maybe we just picked up on it. And it was like they provided examples of other companies whose logos they had allegedly looked at, and they were all different, like completely 180. They were their own distinct entity. But the Rich Energy logo was the White Bikes logo plus a niblet, and that was it. It's like, I don't know how y'all think you're gonna make this work.
But the very fact that he could just happily defend it and just I think it's the line off Seinfeld from George, it's not a lie if you believe it.
That's a man, he can sell you on it because he believes it so firmly himself. And I think that was the thing, like, we learned so much in talking to past drivers he had sponsored, other athletes. They were like, he's just so convincing. Like, he makes you feel like you're legit. Like, this is the thing that's happening. So it was interesting. You know, nothing ever actually came of it. The company moved on. They are not, I think they're still involved in some motorcycle racing in the UK, maybe, if that's the truth. That's the extent of it. But yeah, it was bad news bears. It was embarrassing for F1.
Well, and the book does a great job of giving some of that. So
Thank you.
If people haven't read Racing with Rich Energy, you obviously got to buy it, the copies, like as Rob and I did when it came out. And when Elizabeth joined the Zoom, we were holding up our copies.
It was very cute.
You weren't supposed to say that. That just makes
no.
it sound
Full cheese ball. We go full cheese ball. That's okay. So thinking about F1 now, right? You talk about your first Grand Prix and kind of following up, all of the different series of racing you enjoy, but we're obviously kind of focused on F1 and just kind of curious what your thoughts are on this season so far. We're
so back.
I know,
so
right?
Back.
Isn't it great?
It's really nice. Like, obviously you want competition. That's what makes race car good. I got into Formula One during the Lewis Hamilton domination era and transitioned directly into the Max Verstappen domination era. So I was like, this is kind of how F1 goes. This is the cycle of things. Every so often you got an outlier, but since the modern era, this is how she be. But oh my God, this season has been incredible so far. It's so cool to see teams like McLaren and I don't want to say Ferrari. Ferrari's kind of dropped the ball these last couple of races, but
Tell Rob
McLaren
about it.
working its way up toward the top, being able to challenge for wins. Red Bull being unable to counter develop its car in a way that can fight back. Like we've got some good stuff on our hands. We got beef. We have drivers fighting. We have friendships on the line. Like this is the stuff Drive to Survive could only hope to have generated out of the season, and they've done so good with it so far.
This is going to be a great
It's-
Drive to Survive season, as you say. This is going to be.
They're gonna need extra episodes,
Yeah.
honestly. Like
8
I'm
or
not
10
gonna
won't
be
be enough.
content with just a couple.
I saw.
It's almost like
go ahead,
it's almost like the whole F1 season this year has almost happened with a documentary in mind. So we
Yeah.
got the early Act 1, where
Mhm.
we're going to just see Red Bull dominate like they did last year. So we turn up to the
Mhm.
first race of the season, Red Bull, blah 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 blah. Okay, let's wait for 2026 when the new regs come out and everything will be fine. And then slowly but surely, it feels like we're in that kind of like middle act of the film where different characters are coming to the front now. It's like, well, hang on, when did McLaren get super fat? What are Mercedes doing winning races? Where's Max? It's just brilliant.
It's so cool. It's incredible that we have had 6 different winners in the past 12 races. It is incredible that we have had multiple different teams. Like it's not just 2 teams doing all of the winning. There's like 3, which is more than normal. Like it's fun to watch, and I'm really glad that this is happening because I think last year was a little bit grim.
Yeah.
Just watching Max win every race, how are you supposed to be interested in the sport? And like the diehards are still gonna watch. I'm still sticking around, waking my ass up at 7 o'clock in the morning so I can see him win every weekend. But that's not like, I don't know, you can't really like hold on to an audience base like that. And it's
Yeah.
been so exhilarating to see the growth in the United States. When I went to my first race in 2014, we had like the run of Coda. We were the only people there on Friday. Like no one else had showed up because why would anyone else care the way that me and my friends did with our painted banners for Daniel Ricciardo and like all of the nonsense we had done for that race. And I remember 2021, I think that was my first race back after COVID, and coming out on Friday at like before FP1 and looking at turn 1, and it was packed. And I like got teary-eyed. I was like, "Oh my God. People care about the thing that I've dedicated my life to at this point. This is crazy." And I'm so glad that we're kind of like we're moving it back around where it's like,
Yeah.
yes, this is interesting again. Please keep watching.
Yeah, it is. That's a really good way of putting it because I got into F1 many, many moons ago and kind of had my first love through the late 90s, early 2000s, and then it kind of waned. But it was always, even in the 2014 timeframe, like still kind of like a secret handshake club here in the States, right?
Yeah.
You didn't really like run into someone and they were F1 fans and you were F1 fans. Now it's awesome where you can, I go to the gym, I see someone wearing a McLaren t-shirt. I'm like, Lando, Oscar, who you cheering for? And they know what I'm talking about. It
It's
wasn't
so
like a
exciting.
gift. I know, it's fantastic.
And it's snowballed even just over the last 7 years. So
Mhm.
I moved to the States in 2017, and like Brian said, I'd given up on being able to talk to anybody
Mhm.
about F1. It was just a thing that I did on Sunday mornings by myself on my sofa and watched the race, and that was it. And then met Brian a few years later, and we kind of found we got the shared passion of it. So okay, I found one other person we can talk about. But yeah, now it's I go down, my local sports bar opens the bar up on a Sunday morning, and we get a little crowd in. It's not huge,
Cool.
but it's more than none.
Yeah.
So
A bar is opening early to put a race on because they know people are going to show up for it. That's a huge change.
it's amazing. It's just we got to go to our first race last year to Canada. Me and Brian went up there, and that was
That's a good one.
it wasn't a European road trip, but for me, I drove up from Connecticut, so it was a decent road trip. But
Close
that
enough.
just being in that kind of community where there's like 100,000 people that all just want to talk about the same thing, it was like, yes, I need this to carry on growing in the States because we've got to get to that level where you can turn any corner and just shout
Yeah.
Lewis, and everybody will know what you're on about.
When we were
Well,
walking
too-
from the metro to the track and everyone was talking about F1, it was the greatest thing. Like it felt like our nerdery had found our
Yes.
belonging place, and it was just
It was
great.
I was blessed I got to go to Las Vegas last year and did not have
Nice.
to pay for myself to go, which was wonderful. Shout out to Williams and Michelob Ultra for bringing me out. But it was a mind-boggling experience to be there because people descended on that city who they didn't have tickets to the race. They were just like, we're here for the vibes. We're here to go to the watch parties. We're here because every restaurant has a dinner drink special for the race. We're here because we bought a ticket to watch on TV next to the track, but you can't see the track. So you're walking around, everyone's got like their t-shirts on and they know why you're here and you know what they're here for. And it's like, what is this? A whole like microcosm has just erupted here of only F1. It's the only thing people are here for in Las Vegas of all places. What a ridiculous concept. I can't believe we're here doing this.
So then I guess translating that into two parts. Part one is how do you see more on the business side, but like the fandom side of F1 continuing in America? Do you think it'll keep growing, or have we plateaued? Are we trying to hold on to what we've gained through Drive to Survive? Like, are these 6 winners and 12 races and the battles at the front, are we going to, find a toehold and keep it? Or is it a shooting star and it flames out? Like, how do you kind of see the F1 experience in America in the next 3 years or so?
I'm kind of torn on it because I think this year is going to be such a pivotal one about which way we go. So like maybe we introduce some more upgrades. Max goes back to winning all the time, et cetera, et cetera.
Please no.
Yeah. I think if it keeps being interesting, we're going to kind of organically maintain the interest that F1 has already taken hold of with the Drive to Survive, with, whatever. And the F1 movie coming out, the fact that Hollywood's in on the game now. F1 as a company, as an entity, has a problem actually understanding American audiences. It's historically an issue where you saw that all the way back in 1950 when they had the Indy 500 on the calendar, because it was just it showed that they had no understanding of what that race was, that no one was ever going to show up. Going through all the street races in the 80s and 90s where it was just like, who thought it was a good idea to put a race in Dallas in the middle of summer? Like, what are you doing?
Not Nigel Mansell when he collapsed.
Exactly. Poor man. So and I think with Miami and Vegas, they've shown that they still kind of misunderstand what the American audience is about. They've introduced more races, yes, but these are not American races. They are F1 races for outsiders not from the United States that are happening in America. So like they're for the 1%ers, they're for celebrities, right, influencers, they're for Instagram taking photos of being at the track, not for the fans to go. And I think if we continue on that trajectory where we just assume Americans are cash cows, that's going to be the thing that turns a lot of people off. That turns me off. That's turned a lot of other fans off. I spoke to a lot of people last year about, like it's a crazy historic thing that we have 3 races in America again. But is it worth it if, you can't go to 2 of them and then one of them is extremely like growing in price? Coda's getting way more expensive every year. And I think that's gonna determine it. Like if you can keep that momentum of the interest, people will still pay for tickets. If you keep making the tickets more expensive every year and the product's not living up to that, we're gonna have a problem. And the problem is going to be F1 just disappears into the ether and we go back to maybe a race here.
I think that's incredibly well said. Sorry, Rob, I got to follow up that. I hadn't thought of it in that regard, especially around the ticket prices and the 2 races. I'm really happy you said that. Rob and I, to the same point, we went to Canada last year because it was the race that we could afford to go to.
Yes.
And this year we kind of thought about COTA, but it's the same weekend as Georgia, Texas. And, between the game that weekend and the race, there's no accommodations that we're going to be able to find and afford or a rental car. So I totally get what you're saying. And it feels like you nailed it. It feels like Miami and Vegas are spectacles. As opposed to, bringing in diehard fans who want to actually watch the race. You have to be able to afford the spectacle if you want to be part of it. And for people who just want to go really have fun at the track for the weekend who are race fans, you're getting priced out. You totally nailed it.
Exactly. And I think Vegas really showed kind of the dichotomy that was going on there, where you had a lot of people at the track who didn't care. They just could afford the tickets and could be there. And it was like a thing they kind of were interested in. And all of the people who were just like going up the pedestrian bridges and then going back down just to catch a view of the cars weren't spending money on F1. They were spending money in Las Vegas, but they just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Those people are not able to actively engage with F1 in a way that I think would make a meaningful difference in the fan base here. And that's where they're really dropping the ball in my eyes. Like, I remember being a college student. I remember getting my tickets to the Canadian Grand Prix on Cyber Monday because you could get a weekend ticket for $35. Like, yes, I knew I'd have to wake up at 4 in the morning and go run to my viewing spot in general admission, but I wanted to do it because it was cheap and I could go. And we're pricing those folks out, and those are the psychos who are going to be here 10 years from now,
right.
still doing the exact same things, like making careers out of this, changing kind of the makeup of the sport. You don't want those people to get disillusioned, and you don't want them to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this before, which is that I don't know, it feels like Miami and Vegas with the play to get the eyeballs on the sport. So put a show on, get the spectacle. But COTA was always the jewel in the true fan crown because it was a real racetrack. It's kind of the closest at the moment right now that America has got to say a Silverstone, where it's a racetrack designed for racers where the drivers love it and it puts on a great show each year. It's like, but have they boxed themselves into a corner now? Because one thing we thought was, well, maybe over time then what you can do is you can bring back some traditional proper racing tracks. There's enough of them in America that could get brought up to F1 standards and have some real proper.
Don't ruin Watkins Glen for me. It's cool because I can jump the Yonko barriers in the middle of the night while I'm camping.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, maybe Watkins Glen we leave off there at the moment. But
I totally get what you're saying.
But the problem is, unless they went down as this calendar is expanding, it just can't carry on expanding like this. We have a regular contributor to the show, my friend Paul. He works for Valtteri, and he phones us in a race review after every single race. He's been brilliant to us, but he's already kind of feeling it just from him, and the logistics of 24 races is going to hurt this year. It's going to be insane. If they went to some sort of rota, you could almost kind of designate that, hey, yeah, US is going to get, like, say, a couple more places, but there's only ever going to be, I don't know, 2 or 3 a year. And one of them's got to be proper racing and one of them's got to be spectacle. So one year it's either Miami or Vegas, and then you have a real racetrack to go alongside it. Because if they keep going just plowing the whole spectacle furrow, I'm with you. They're just going to lose the momentum. The real race fans don't care about those ones. But I think we got lucky that Vegas delivered an all right race. But I think that was an
talked
accident.
So much shit about Vegas beforehand, to the extent that the organizers wouldn't give me credentials. Because I was interviewing people about how awful it was to live in this city at that point and how little F1 was doing to kind of give back to the city. And I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to be vindicated. And then I was like, oh, dude, this was one of the coolest race experiences I've ever had. It was so much fun. Damn it.
So what do you think then? I'd asked a two-parter a while ago, and I forgot to get to the second part. I blame it on my COVID, but that's okay. The second part of my question is, what do you see happening in F1 the rest of the season? So, we talked about business for the next, butts and seats for the next 3 years or so. What are you looking forward to for the second 12 races of 2024?
I hope that we can keep on this trajectory that we're at, where one team brings upgrades that puts them just a little bit further ahead of everyone else, and then someone else brings their counter upgrades, and they're like, the game of it, like, increments, I think, is what I want to say. Those minute changes, those little things, I think they do so much, and you can see just how integral the technology still is in Formula One compared to kind of anywhere else. And I think I just wanted to keep being competitive. I want to keep turning on a race and being like, Max probably will. I want him to be a little bit less good. If Max could continue on this path, that'd be great. But I would love to keep turning on the TV and being like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, maybe Max wins, but something crazy goes on. Maybe Lando wins and it's a boring race, but Lando won. Like, I just want to keep, I hope we keep doing that. I think we're still going to be in that path, because I think we're still seeing, like, just from hearing what I've heard in the paddock the past couple of weeks from the audio transcriptions and stuff, it sounds like everyone is on that path of, like, we're just going to do a little thing every weekend or every other weekend, and we're going to keep it secret, keep it on the down low, and see what happens. I just want that. I just want, even if Max still wins the championship or whatever, I just want this, like, glimmer of hope that we can have legitimately competitive championships again in the near future.
Yeah.
Ideally, before we go to the 2026 regulations. I know that's kind of the hope that we would go there and it's going to shake up the dominance. But the recent trend has been that the new regulations just reintroduce a new dominance pattern for someone. And then by the time everyone gets up to speed, it's like, oh, we're changing it
We're done
again.
again with these regs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most
Someone gets
frustrating
it
thing
right,
about this
and
is
a lot of people get it wrong compared to
that convergence that happens. It's like, why do we have to change the regs so often? Can't you just let us have a couple more years? Because if it takes 2 or 3, maybe 4 years for convergence to happen, and when it does, we get amazing racing, and then we have to press the reset button and wait all over it again. It's just like, aren't they missing a trick? Do they have to change the regs so often and to such a degree? It's like, so anyway, big question for you then. So,
Yes.
Max probably think I think he's going to win the world championship. That's fine. But actually, we both agreed the other day we could actually cheer for him winning a race the other day when it was hard fought rather than being 30 seconds ahead down the track. Right? Got nothing against Max.
He's a great driver. I just want to see him drive. I want to see him race for the win, not just cruise out there because he's got the best car and is also the best driver ever.
Well, there's my segue. That's a nice little segue. So we've got Max, best driver, best car. His teammate, not so much. Do we see a non-Red Bull constructor title this year?
I think if McLaren keeps going, I think McLaren has a legitimate shot. I think if Lando Norris can get his shit together and start putting on some better performances and not putting himself on the back foot, making mistakes that are kind of silly, and Oscar Piastri keeps on this form that he's on of just good finishes, good point scoring finishes, I think McLaren has a shot. I think they did a hot mess with Sergio Perez. I don't know what's
happening there.
I have no idea what's going on with that poor boy. I don't think there's anyone you can put in a car next to Max Verstappen and hope they'll be good or even really comparable. Just because of the way that Max likes to have his car set up, it is apparently completely different than anything that makes sense to anyone else. But I was like, you put a Daniel Ricciardo in there, that boy's done. Like you put Liam Lawson in there. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's got the experience. You keep Sergio in there, like your chances at the championship for the constructors is kind of like it's worrisome. I hope I would love a McLaren one. I hate McLaren as much as I love McLaren. So I want to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this stuff circulating this week about the whole performance clauses in Checo's contract that if he's so many points behind Max
100
by
points
the
behind
season,
Verstappen, or I think 6 positions behind as well.
5 or 6 behind. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's on, no, it's not looking good. I mean, if you hold those clauses up to what he's doing at the moment, then he's not driving for the second half of the season when we come back from the summer break.
But to Elizabeth's point, who are you going to put in that car? I mean, like, you had to get on the horn. What do you say?
I said Hulkenberg. Look what he's doing in the Haas.
I know. He's the best Ferrari out there.
My big brain hope is like we move Daniel Ricciardo up, right? Just for the end of the season. And then we get rid of him. I think it's his time to go off into the sun. I love him, but like you're done. Put Liam Lawson in, oh God, what is it even called? The V-Carb now?
Yeah.
Then promote him next year and bring Pato O'Ward in because Pato O'Ward is in position currently to have enough super license points to be able to compete in Formula One next year. This is a complete, like, based on nothing but my own hopes and dreams. But this is what I would love to happen. I love Pato. I think he's great.
I think he's
I just
great
want
too.
him to do things.
I think it was Pato a couple years ago. He tested the McLaren and didn't he need the cushion next to his head after like a handful of laps? And Lando was kind of ribbing him a little bit about that. I could be wrong, but I think that would be cool.
That was what happened. He's beefed up his neck a bunch since then. He wasn't quite used to the G-forces that was going to put on him. But he's been working on it. It's been some years. I think. Well,
and I love that story though because you take an incredibly talented driver and someone who's driving open wheel cars, and then all of a sudden you give them an F1 car, and they're like, "Oh my God, what is happening with these G-forces around the corners?" I try to explain to my family even and my friends how intense F1 is, and they're like, "Yeah, they're just driving cars." I'm like, "No,
they're not."
Oh man. Okay, so that's. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
No, I was going to say. So we're saying that Elizabeth Blackstock's prediction: McLaren constructs a title this year. Oof, heard it here first.
You heard it here
folks.
first. It is Wednesday, July 10th at 5:15 p.m. Central. Bookmark it, stamp it when we come to the end of the season, and I'm right. Y'all can thank me later.
Done.
Oh, it's been absolutely amazing. We could quite happily sit here and just carry on chatting for like another couple of hours, but then I'm going to blow through all our allowance on our podcast uploads, so we're going to have to not do that. So.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This has been
course.
awesome. And as we said before, and I'm pointing at the book again, Racing with Rich Energy, Planet F1, Jalopnik, the stories we highlighted, your podcast, Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys. I actually didn't even realize this. I forgot you and Ash have the Twitch on Tuesdays, right?
Yes. We have a
I'm like, I
Twitch
know I'm missing
stream.
stuff. What else do you want to highlight for people?
The Twitch stream every Tuesday at like 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. I have Grand Prix Gastronomy.
That's right.
Please listen to Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys. I put a lot of work into that, and it makes me absolutely no money. So please just listen, because it makes me really happy when people listen to it.
Well, we will make sure that we do, and we hope all the listeners do
Thank
too.
you.
And thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. It was an absolute blast.
Box.
Tremendous. That was brilliant. Thank you again, Elizabeth, for your time and your stories. And it's like I said, I've read her articles on Jalopnik forever. Rob and I bought the book, the Racing with Rich Energy, when that came out, and it was just cool to have her on. And when you talk about someone who has passion and enthusiasm and excitement and energy for a thing like F1 and motorsport as a whole, that's Elizabeth. So thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Yeah. And actually, we didn't mention it to her. Do you remember when we bought the book? That was like the first time that we tried to orchestrate a video.
Yes.
Where I was reading the book and then I frisbeed it across to you, and then you orchestrated it. Was it hitting you in the head?
It hit
you
me
fell off the chair?
Yeah, it hit me in the head. Yeah. We didn't mention that to her. The best part about that was it took like 3 takes on my end for it to actually hit me right, like the trajectory. And so my wife just kept throwing a book at my head, and she thought it was great. My wife wanted to do a 4th and a 5th take. She's like, harder this time? I'm like, I have a concussion. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, man. No, that was brilliant. And kind of mentioned coming back on again. So I think, hey, maybe we'll try and get her and Mark on a double stack episode.
Yeah,
and,
well, we also got to get
end
Nate on here, and Sean Kelly agreed to come on. I mean, we're rocking and rolling, baby. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Elizabeth. You are the absolute best. All right, we didn't do this. We'll do a quick fantasy from last week because we did a quick recording. Fantasy hadn't calculated. So the British Grand Prix, obviously you needed some Mercedes in there, especially some Lewis and not some George because of the DNF. Let's say the top 5 to 10 here, we got Josie, Carlando MJ. We got Adam with Chicago Gooner. We got William LRG Motorsports. Matthew Max Verstappen Shafts 24. It's getting even better. Usama with Phoenix AMG. Roger with Studio VRM Racing. Steven Valtteri's Green Machine. Ayal the M Team. Leon with Team BMW ZW. And then Matt in 10th with Shui Transmitted Disease. I will say this. The scores weren't crazy high, and people used some chips, so it was a good week to maybe just have an average week, which I had. I stunk it up. I was 39th. Now, my only defense is I hadn't even seen any races. I hadn't seen Austria. I'd watched Spain in a bar when I hadn't slept for 2 days. I was doing my best.
What's that got to do with anything?
I hadn't done any Twitter recon. I was basically shooting from the hip.
You were at the venue.
Right.
You were inside the paddock with inside knowledge during FP1 and 2. You were closest to the ground than anybody.
Right. And I finished 39th. So, baby, it's better if I'm at my laptop staring at it from afar.
What was your score?
148.
Ooh, I did okay. I was 18th this week with 170.
Nice. Now, I'm still ahead of you in the overall. I looked at the overall here.
Yeah, you are.
Can we just list the top 5?
Yeah, go on, go for it.
So because there's only 2 weeks left, right, of the first half. It's summer break, we call it, even though we're halfway in. Summer break T-shirt time, and it's getting close. We've got Niku with Kimi Häkkinen at 2,700 points dead. And then Andy from Tails I Win, and he's at 2,677, so 23 points behind. Very close. And then Fariz at Petronas RT, also very close behind, just 11 points behind Andy. And then again, Usama, Phoenix AMG, we just mentioned 26:57. So all 4 of those teams are very, very close for the T-shirt with 2 races left. And you cannot count out Busan and fifth at Waystar Royco, 26:22. 2 races you can easily make up that 78 points. So there is a lot to play for those top 5 teams. I'm 21st in the league. Where are you at, Rob? You're right behind me, I think.
Yeah, I'm now fallen to a little bit more than. Although I gained on you this week, I still haven't undone the damage of the previous week, where like all 5 of my drivers DNF'd and burnt their cars at the same time. So I think I'm about 120 points behind you, something like that. But
well, the T-shirt is still to play for the first half. For all those, at least the 5 I mentioned are definitely close. Rob and I won't be getting our own T-shirts this year.
We do that on purpose because we don't want to be seen to win and have everybody think we rigged the system. So we just try to be Aston Martin and just go off the radar.
Guarantee a bad finish in the middle. No, that's not true because I'm proud of how I've done the last couple of years, and this year is an epic disaster. Really? Because
you never mention it where you finished in the world
333rd in the entire world.
They give out T-shirts down to 333rd?
Yeah, you just make it yourself.
There we go, you see. So anyway, second is the first loser. Right, Hungary preview, the Hungaroring. I'm going to try and make this sound exciting, but recent occurrences is going to make that challenging.
Good luck
but
to
anyway, 2.722 miles, 70 laps of the Hungaroring. It's been nicknamed Monaco with barriers, without barriers, as overtakes tend to be few and far between. Dusty, dry conditions and twisty bumper nature of the track just mean that we just get a procession like all the time. It's been on the calendar since 1986. A little stat, it took 20 years to get its first wet race because it's usually very hot and dry race, and in 2006 they had rain. 2009 was the year when Button's Brawn, a little spring that came off his suspension, hit Massa.
That was at Hungary. I forgot that. That was at Hungary.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
2021 is the good old bowling scene.
Best Hungary race ever. No, I'm dead serious. Like 2021, Rob. So what happened was, I'm stealing Rob's thunder here from the story, but it was my favorite Hungary race by far. So Valtteri, it's raining. He goes too far into the first corner, and he runs into Lando, who then runs into Max, and then Valtteri hits Checo. And it was the 21 season when Mercedes and Red Bull were going back and forth. And Valtteri and the Mercedes takes out both Red Bulls. Now Max continued. And then basically Lance went steaming into the corner and hit Charles at the same time. And then Esteban somehow, like we talked about the Matrix, it's like he saw the seas part digitally and he somehow got his car through there. And it was wild. We had George telling them to prioritize Nikki. I think this was the race. And then it was just crazy the way that it all fell, that we had it happen. And they go around one lap, they red flag, they go around for the formation lap. And Lewis is the only one on the start. He's the only one on the starting grid because everyone else, he had position. Everyone else goes in for slicks. Lewis goes on inters. His race is hosed. But he gets back on the slicks. He starts chasing Esteban, and who slows him down? The world's greatest defensive drive from Fernando Alonso. And it was a chef's kiss of a race.
It wasn't. It had fantastic moments in it. We would, if we'd have been reviewing that, I bet you the Notion notes would have had "We're in a lull" written many times by you in the notes, right? Because we had ridiculous start that just jumbled everything up, right? Brilliant first lap collision because now you've taken a lot of the players out. Had the wet weather, the drying out that screwed Lewis, and now suddenly it's all up for grabs. So the scene was set for fantastic. The race itself wasn't very good, but then the last bit, that last chase
20, it was like 20 laps because Lewis started the chase. He was on the hunt.
Yeah, it might have been that many, but so that little chase down gave us one story. That would have given us one thing to talk about reviewing the pod.
Yeah. I loved it. In retrospect, it shines bright in my memory because the rest of the Hungarian races.
Yeah, so last year, Lewis got on pole. They were trying that new format where you had to run hards in Q1, mediums in Q2, and softs in Q3. Lewis got pole. Max, Lando, and Oscar rounded out the front rows as part of McLaren's resurgence when they suddenly realised how to drive or make the car go fast. And it was all set up for a great race, but we were also in the middle of the Red Bull dominance. So what happens? Max overtakes Lewis at the beginning, disappeared off into the sunset, and set himself. He got a pit stop clear in ridiculous amount of time, and basically stopped for a cup of coffee during his first pit stop. Checked on the news, then got back in his car and went out again, still in the lead. Again, we had a little bit of first corner incident. Zhou went into Danny Rick, who went into Ocon, who went into the Gasman. So we had like a 4-way push along, both Alpines out. Then apparently a race happened. But all we really remember from it is Lando being on the podium and breaking Max's porcelain trophy when he knocked it off the podium.
That was here?
Then,
I forgot that was
and then
Budapest.
tried to kind of sidle away from the scene of the crime.
Yeah. I forgot where that was. I do remember that.
It was the nice little kind of porcelain hand-painted.
Yes, beautiful trophy.
Made by, beautiful trophy that got broken. And it gave Red Bull 12 in a row and broke McLaren's record of constructor wins in a row that they'd held since 1988. I went back to our notes. Yeah. Yes, I went back to our notes just to see, because that's the one thing of us being able to archive our kind of notes from each race review. I went back and read last year's Hungaroring script that we had, and yes, you in capital letters have just on one of the rows just written dull, dull, dull.
I did. Oh, I feel bad for Hungary. Yeah, it's gonna. So, what Rob is suggesting is when you watch this race this coming week, have some caffeine with you.
But I always like to be the optimist in the room, so I'm going to apart.
You
from
are? What about the whole
Leclerc,
Charles thing for 4 seconds ago?
See that you really, because I am such an optimist. When I have a little moment like that, you really need to take it seriously.
I brought you back.
Charles,
I told you it'd be fine.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So,
I feel discounted.
Where we are right now, with not a guaranteed knowing who's going to win situation. So Max isn't going to drive off and be 30 seconds clear, we don't think. We've got McLaren's both looking feisty and probably Mercedes coming back. I'm going to dismiss Ferrari for the moment, or did I just say Ferrari by mistake then? We got McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull. Well, Max, let's discount Checo. We got those 5 cars in the mix. So with the cars being much closer together in performance, maybe this will be an okay Hungarian Grand Prix. Maybe.
I'll give you 2 notes of what I expect to happen. One, it would be important for me to say that I think the track, when the pit straight is at the bottom of the picture, looks like a check engine light. And then 2, it's very hard-hitting journalism. The second thing I would say is I think this makes quali more important. So I think because it's a little bit of a toss-up, but it is hard to pass.
It is,
I think the quali, once again, like at Monaco, except now there's no jeopardy like there is with the walls in Monaco. There's jeopardy, but I think it just makes quali more important. And so Saturday afternoon, evening, whomever comes out near the top, who has pole and first and second, third sort of positions on the grid, I think they're in pretty good shape for potentially finishing on the podium. So I'm not expecting a banger of a race unless the weather intervenes. Thank God there's no sprint here. And I expect whomever does well in quali to maybe translate that to the race, because this isn't like a quali race pace differential humongous situation normally. Those weren't words. Those are words that wasn't a sentence.
I'm still trying to process what you actually just said.
It was word salad. You got to enjoy the word salad every now and then, and that's what it was. Crunch, crunch, munch, munch. Where are the croutons?
Well, while you finish off eating your word salad, let's just quickly get the stats out of the way then. So the repeat winners are Mr. Lewis Hamilton with 8. Didn't he just make an 8 into 9 at Silverstone? Maybe he's got an appetite for making 8s into 9s. We will see. Right behind him, well, not right behind him, with half the number of wins is Michael Schumacher with 4. Ayrton Senna's got 3, and then we don't have a word salad. We have a driver salad of drivers on 2 wins. We've got Piquet, Hill, Villeneuve, Hakkinen, Button, Vettel, and Verstappen.
Wait, did you say that?
This is Jacques Villeneuve, and you're listening to the dirty side of the track.
Yeah. Yes, I did. How that all shakes out in the world of the constructors is that McLaren have got 11, Williams and Ferrari have got 7, Mercedes have got 5, and Red Bull have got 4. So, not quite sure. What's refreshing, right, is sitting here, or standing here, as I mentioned, I'm not just automatically looking at Red Bull 4 wins and expecting it to become 5 and the Max Verstappen 2 to become 3.
I agree.
Last year, it was just a formality. It was like we were spending so much energy trying to make the race
best of the rest
sound interesting.
The non-Max winners, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Actually, you're right. Like we don't know who's going to win this race. I don't think it's a Ferrari, but you never know. I think we could see potentially a Mercedes, definitely a McLaren, and potentially Max. You can't say Checo. I'm sorry. You cannot. At this point, it's a Red Bull. You have to say Max. It feels like we could have one of 5 winners, and maybe because of the shape of the track. Maybe Ferraris, if they roll back some of the upgrades. But again, you lose so much time. You have to keep developing. So I'd be shocked if we saw Charles or Carlos on the podium. But you never know. It's not a super high-speed track, which might help them. So maybe Ferrari has a chance at doing something decent. I think they're in a world of hurt for Spa after this, but we'll see.
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about that was coming up. Yeah, they need to sort the speed out because it's kind of a little bit important at Spa. But,
it's kind of a little bit important.
So, yeah.
Down the Kemmel Straight, Ferraris hit 5-6 miles an hour. Sorry, I'm sorry. Now Rob got me poisoned with the negativity. Rob, close out Hungary, and I'm gonna close this out.
No, I think we had. I was about to hand over to you to hand out the week. So that's Hungary. Looking forward to it.
Oh man, I am looking forward to it just because we don't know who will win. You're right. It's not always the greatest race. Maybe we can all have fun with quali and then see what happens after that. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Again, a big thank you to Elizabeth for joining us. That was a lot of fun, and we can't wait to review Hungary. If there's a lot to talk about. And if it's not, it'll be a short episode next week where we just talk about dull. But you never know. And that's what's so great about this season. I'm going to be glass half full and go drink it. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great week.